Ah, yes, my children. Hunt! Feast upon the bodies of your enemies. Do not let any of them survive. Hunt! Hunt! Oh my god. These drones are gonna be so annoying. I love them. Alright, so welcome back everybody. Today we are on the test server once again, but this time we actually have a little bit of treats here, and I actually am able to record a little bit of it. As you can see, I don't have very much time here, so we're going to have to make it this lickety-split. But I wanted to show off here a few of the brand new weapons that were given to us to play with here. So let's go ahead and just go through them one by one. So the first one we actually have here is this lovely devly plasma drill here. Doesn't actually have a name quite yet, but you can see the stats right here. Minimal damage, high fire rate, low range, really great accuracy, and actually some fairly high durability and low energy requirements. So this is actually going to be a fairly useful weapon, to be honest. So let's go ahead and try it. And of course, there isn't any sort of description for their perk, so we're just going to have to kind of guess what it is. So let's take it for a test drive. Alright, so... Oh! Okay. Okay. I love the sound it makes. It's absolutely wonderful. It sounds futuristic as heck. But it appears that you fire a small laser beam, you click once and it just automatically continues, and then it ends in a large burst. And it also heats up your car at the exact same time. I'm kind of curious how much the damage is just for the burst. The burst itself appears to be a very minimal amount of damage. Does it actually have explosion radius, though? Because it does look like it bursts. But no, there isn't any explosion, so it's just a pure projectile. And the burst looks like it does around 50 damage. However, it's going to be hard to kind of see that in combat because you'll be hitting with the target multiple times while also heating it up. So the actual damage per shot appears to be about 110, which then goes up the more you heat up the car part, which you can just chain back to back. But it appears it does have a fixed firing rate, and it has no overheating capacity, so we should theoretically be able to boost it up with a Colossus engine. Let's test that out. Alright, let's see. Yeah, it does feel faster. And if you just keep that going, you can see the reload actually taking a little bit less time. Now let's compare that without the Colossus engine again to see what the reload time is like. Alright, so without the Colossus... Oh yeah, that reload time is incredibly slow without the Colossus engine. Yeah, this thing would definitely benefit from being fused with extra reload time while having the Colossus engine. That would so help it out massively. It'd also probably help too if I had the Jade perk, but I don't have any of her stuff unlocked either, so this would probably help her out massively. But that's the lovely dovely plasma drill here. I can see this being mildly useful, and it does seem like a nice sniping weapon. Let's see what the actual distance is on this lovely dovely weapon, because that's going to be the big thing with this. Because at close range, it doesn't seem to do a whole lot. The turning speed is quite slow. So let's take a look here. What's its range? Can it hit the 300 meter? Nope, can't hit the 300 meter. What about the 200? Can't hit the 200. What about the 150? Can it hit the 150? Okay. So can it hit the 100? It can hit the 100 meter one. But it looks like with a damage penalty. Let's see. It hit 90 total. What was this one? That one's 110. So at 50 meters, it's fine. But at 100 meters, it starts having fall-off damage here. So this is going to be a medium to close-range weapon, which I guess justifies the extra durability, but its low damage and high energy cost is going to make this thing not very useful. We'll have to see, though. We'll have to see. It's a mixture between a damage weapon and a support weapon, so you'd be able to help out your allies by heating up parts considerably. Not to mention that you could chain like two or three of these together on a single cabin. Alright, for the second weapon here, it looks like we'll try out the lovely dovely plasma cutter. So a lot of plasma-themed weapons here. But let's go ahead and take a look at its stats here. We do have a high amount of damage here, quite high, 4 from max. Fire rate's pretty high as well, 3 from max. And range is really high too, at 2 from maximum. So for reference, I believe it's even further than the average machine gun. Oh yeah, that's way higher than the average machine gun. Oh yeah. So this thing theoretically could shoot very long distances. We'll have to try that out. And the accuracy is about medium. Looks pretty high, though. And we're on an accuracy cap, and so it should even be higher. And the durability is still quite nice. Energy requirements are also quite low as well. As well as that the mass is quite... it's not too bad. The ratio is quite even. So it isn't absurdly heavy. But let's go ahead and try it on the range. Alright, here. So this one said it was going to have a very long range. So let's see how long it can actually hit. So we'll hit the 300-meter target. Nope. It does not hit at all, but it sounds absolutely wonderful. Just shoots out a nice flat line of plasma. Alright, let's try the 200-meter. Nope, still can't hit that. 150? Ooh, not even 150. Weird. Yeah, so it's able to hit the 100-meter, and it hits it for roughly around 60 damage. What about the 50-meter? And hits it for a solid 64 damage. Yeah, the damage on this is incredibly minor, especially considering its reload time. Interesting. Interesting. So, it's saying it has similar range to that of an equalizer. So let's see, let me just double check to make sure that the equalizer can hit farther than 100 meters, because I'm more than certain it can. Alright, so let's go ahead and try this. So, 300 meter? Yep, I can hit the 300 meters. So literally, this thing shoots 3 times as far, yet the accuracy is 4 from maximum. Or sorry, not the accuracy. The range on this is 4, but the range on this is way more than 4. It's 2 from maximum. So, curious as to why the range on the plasma cutter is so measly. This thing should be able to hit from across the map, yet it can barely hit 100 meters. Interesting. Let me try this out again, just to make sure it's not bugged. Alright, back here at the range again. Let's take a gander at this. Can it actually hit 300 meters? It can't hit 300 meters, nor can I charge up the shot. It is simply just the left click, and it just fires that one projectile. And it doesn't appear to penetrate, too. Let's see. So we shot that side of the card. Does it actually go all the way through? Nope. So it's not even a penetrating target. Yeah, this thing is going to be a very tough sell. With a low damage, low range, decent energy requirement, and fairly high power score, this thing probably is less competitive than the average Cord or Vector, so they're going to have to work on the stats on that a hot second. I'm assuming it's just going to be bugged, because the stats they have actually listed do not match the actual gun itself. That, I have no idea what the extra perk damage it is listed there at the bottom, but we'll have to see how that is. Next one is the brand new lightning gun. Oh yeah, that is a beautiful SOB. Let's take a gander here. Damage is 4 from maximum, fire rate is maximum, range is 2 from maximum, and accuracy is 4. So I'm assuming it's going to be fairly average. Durability is quite high at 480. Not high as a cannon, but fairly high. For its size, though, the accuracy could be higher, or the HP could be higher. However, I'm assuming you can hide these in between fenders. So if that's the case, that'll be just fine. Nope, you cannot hide this in fenders at all. Yep, so this thing is going to be difficult and very easy to strip. I can see that thing falling off lickety-split. Alright, let's go ahead and try it at the shooting range, though. Alright, so let's go ahead and try. I believe there is a charged up shot and a burst fire. So you can charge up your shot to get a large shot like that. And it sounds quite nice. And you can see that the actual front of the gun itself, too, actually kind of contracts like that, too. Ah, but it looks like that if you hold it for too long, the gun itself actually overheats. It actually looks like it's very easy to shoot up at that point. So you can't hold it for too long. So let's try the simple burst fire. So So each small burst fire is around 12 damage. Alright. How much is a very large shot? 182? Okay, so over 10 times the damage when you shoot with a large shot. Alright, does a large shot also have explosion? Because that doesn't appear to have any sort of explosion. Let's try hitting the side of the car. Does it explode? Yep, it does appear to explode because it hit the backside of the panel too. Oh yeah. So you're able to fire some decent damage, high explosive shots. Let's test the range on this though. Oh, the range on it's good. And it doesn't appear to have any fall-off damage. Not to mention, look at that projectile speed. That thing is nearly instantaneous. This thing's going to be an amazing sniping weapon. But I'm assuming the reload on this is super fast. So that's quite nice. You don't have to wait too long to actually fire again. The only downside is that the charge up on it is super long, which you won't really be able to affect unless you fuse the cabin itself or fuse the weapon. But I could see this being quite nice. You can have a grand total of, I believe, there's 16 energy, so you can have 2 of these. So that's not going to be a terribly convincing sell for most builds. Having only 2 of these is not really going to do a whole bunch for a lot of people. But we'll see, though. I'm assuming this is supposed to be a competitor to the Pulsar. And I do find the damage quite nice, the projectile speed quite nice. So this thing's going to be great for anyone who likes to sit in the back line and snipe quite a bit. Let's try testing out this range, though. How far can it shoot? Oh, wow, look at that! Even at this distance, which is well over 300 meters, this is probably more close to like 1,000 or so meters, the damage is still great on this. It doesn't appear to have any sort of fall off. Not to mention that projectile speed is still very nice. Even at over 1,000 meters, this thing still shoots like crazy, and it still has that nice explosion radius. So having 2 of these on a sniping car, especially at lower power score, I could see these working out real nicely. Hopefully, though, it doesn't become a seal clubbing build, but we'll have to see. This is definitely going to be an interesting weapon. That's actually a pretty good weapon. That one I give a thumbs up. The other ones are kind of eh. And it appears that the tension overheat thing, I wonder if that's in reference to the fact that if you hold it too long in its explosion position, that it actually overheats. Interesting. Interesting. And then, of course, we have the lovely, dovely Sputnik weapons here. You already know what this video is all going to be about. This glorious, glorious drone here. And as you can see, each drone here is about only 4 energy, to be honest, which is actually quite generous. So as you can see, we have 4 ammunition per drone, 4 energy per, durability of 190, with a mass of 200, so fairly durable and fairly lightweight. The perk appears that it has an exhaustion perk, which I'm not quite sure what that means. I'm not sure if it slows people down like a spark or anything like that, but it does tase people. So you can effectively now roleplay with your friends and say, "Don't tase me, bro." It's a beautiful looking drone, though. Let's go ahead and try it out. Alright, so on this build, we actually have the Doppler on here, so we do have the best radar in the game. But let's see how far these drones are actually willing to go for you. That's what I kind of want to know here. So we have our lovely drones here, and it looks like they kind of spaz out, go from point to point randomly, but they won't attack anybody unless you specifically target somebody. So you can target it about what appears to be 50 meters. So we'll go ahead and let them take out that car. Damage appears to be about 35-ish per hit, and they go directly for the cabin. But the damage on them is quite nice. Go for that one. Okay, and as you can see, the drones just kind of poof away. They don't really have any sort of diving mechanic to them. So it appears that their maximum range appears to be roughly around 100 meters. So that's their targeting distance, similar to the Caucasus in a way. It's a little bit shorter. But let's see if you can actually run away from them, and how long will they actually stick on them. Alright. So it looks like they'll stick on them for a distance, but not too long. So you can't run away too far. Otherwise, they will no longer target them. But they still do a decent amount of damage. I can imagine this being absolutely fantastic on a hover build or a car build, especially if you had an Aegis strapped to it so that you can justify, you know, running around and protecting yourself, because you will still have to be in brawling range with these things. It still can't just be a dump and run, unlike the Cobras. But I want to see whether or not if you can hide behind an object. Let's say if I hid behind an object, will my drones still attack? So we'll send them to attack my lovely car. And what happens if I hide behind my car? Oh, well, it looks like the car is too far out of distance anyway for me to actually test this. But it'll be interesting to see whether or not you can actually hide behind objects while this thing fires. I imagine no, since in Caucasus, when you hide behind an object or when your cabin loses line of sight of other cabins, you lose that targeting reticle. So say, if I was to be behind a rock and there was a car behind that, my Caucasus wouldn't be intelligent enough to lock onto that car. So I wonder if that's the same thing with these Sputnik drones. But the drones themselves look quite nice, and I do like their unique targeting mechanic. As to whether or not that'll make them competitive, it's hard to say. The non-automatic targeting nature of these drones will make them more viable for, you know, nuking a single target. However, it might make them more vulnerable to getting shot down, as well as just being a bit more of a nuisance to use, but I'm hopeful they'll do fairly well. And of course, for the last gun here, we have the lovely Devly nail gun here. It is a special tier part, and it appears to have a similar projectile to that of the spike. So let me go ahead and show you what I mean. So if you come over here to our lovely Devly range, let's go ahead and take a couple of shots at this little van here. Ooh, nice. So what looks like you can do is that you can fire a single shot if you want, or you can load up all your shots and fire it out similar to a shotgun. And the reload on it is actually fairly generous. It's actually not too bad. And it appears the projectiles also stick inside your car, but they don't appear to really have any sort of recoil effect to it. The accuracy on them is absolutely nice, but it does look like the bullet itself actually has some drop-off. Yep, has a fairly substantial drop-off, but it's still going to be fairly accurate. Similar to the spike. Yeah, and as you can see at that 300-meter range, it might be kind of hard to tell, but I'm not really hitting the car dead center every time. And also it appears to be hitting a little bit low. So this weapon is definitely a little bit less precise than what I would like here, but it does appear to do quite well. And can you still shoot from a distance? Yeah, you can, and all those projectiles still go. So if you had like 2 or 3 of these and you just kept firing into the distance, you could definitely hit a lot of people. It's a great blunderbuss weapon. Not good enough to knock around people, but enough to do a substantial amount of damage. And you could always throw in a Colossus engine too to make this more usable. Let's kind of try this with 3 of these bad boys and see how much of an area we can cover with 3 of them. Alright, so over here we have 3 of these lovely Devly guns. So let's go ahead and try loading all of them. Oh my goodness. That's actually pretty substantial. Nearly 400 damage at kind of this range is not too bad. At 150, it ain't too bad either. Not to mention that if you're dealing with larger cars, you're going to get way more damage. Not to mention that you could have the possibility of hitting way more people than intended. Yeah, see, in this situation, we're hitting 2 cars. So we're getting quite a bit of damage. So I can see this being kind of a nice support weapon in a way. A good harassing weapon. Not to mention that its energy requirements are fairly low, so you can have a decent amount of them. Range on them says it's only good for 1 to 2. But the range on this is kind of indefinite, since the projectile can go on forever, while suffering a little bit of penalty with regards to bullet drop-off. Damage is fairly high, fire rate is fairly good. Accuracy is quite nice. A little bit not accurate if you decide to charge up all of the bullets. But other than that, it actually does appear to do quite nicely. Durability is 157 with a mass of 180, so that ain't too bad either. That's actually a nice amount of HP. Not quite enough to be usable in terms of survivability amongst other weapons. I mean, but it's still higher than the Emily. It's not as high as a cannon, but it's pretty much higher than most machine guns. So it's not that bad of a gun. Not that bad of a gun. I'm actually curious as to whether or not this thing can be tucked around a frame effectively. Because if that's the case, this thing will be much more survivable. So let's get our large fender out here. Nope, appears to interact with that too heavily. What about a regular old frame? Alright, so with the lovely fender here, it appears it can be hidden behind that quite nicely. And it can still shoot quite nicely. So I could see that being quite useful, and it's going to be decently survivable if you armor it up a bit. But I think that is all the weapons from what I understand, so let me know what you guys think of these brand new weapons here. So just to cover what we've covered, we've gone over the plasma drill, the plasma cutter, the lightning gun, the Sputnik, and the nail gun. So let me know down below which one is your favorite and which one you're most excited to see. Personally, I'm loving to see the Sputnik and the nail gun. The other three are interesting, but I don't see them having any terribly useful place right now. They have interesting firing mechanisms, and the fact they're all like reloading weapons and none of them are overheating weapons is quite nice. But we'll have to see how they actually perform and what the actual final stats will be to see if these things will actually be useful on the live server, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But other than that, guys, I want to thank you all for joining me this evening. If you had fun, by all means, follow whatever platform is your favorite. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitch. Both of them have exclusive content. Other than that, there's Discord and Twitter down below if you want to get notified whenever I go live, as well as just get notified whenever you want to join the community. You know, fun stuff like that. Other than that, guys, I want to thank you all for joining me this evening, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.